Hello, Bravo bosses. This is the Bravo Investigator Podcast. I'm your host, Dana. And today on our Monday Reality Roundup, we are talking about The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, The Traitors, Love is Blind, Real Housewives of New York, Vanderpump Rules, The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and Siesta Key. Let's get into it. Everyone. I hope everyone had a great week and weekend. And I'm sorry that this episode is coming out a bit late today. I'm literally always apologizing. Sorry, the Canadian in me. I was supposed to have a guest today, but she ended up having to bail because she was sick. It's a really amazing guest, and I'll have her back another time when she's feeling better. So I just sort of had to plan around the day because honestly, I have such a busy week this week in terms of job interviews. So things are going good on that front. And I know I keep telling you guys I have so many job interviews and they're going well. And you're probably wondering, why don't we have a job yet? Well, like every job interview ends up being like 4 job interviews. So it's like you have an HR interview, and then you have a part 1 interview, and then you have a test, and then you have a part 2 interview, and then you have another in-person interview. So today I have an in-person interview and a test. Tomorrow I have a test. Wednesday, I have an interview and then a test, and then later in the afternoon, another test. So these processes go on for quite some time because there are so many pieces to it, which I guess I understand, but it's also very stressful on me as someone who has a lot of anxiety and isn't a patient person to begin with. It's not my forte to be waiting and waiting and waiting. And, you know, my severance has just run out. So, it's okay because hopefully something will come upon soon. Like I said, lots of great job interviews. It's just a matter of being a little bit more patient, which again, not my forte. But yeah, I hope you guys are doing well. And there's so much great TV on the horizon because we have Summer House back this week. So just to remind you guys of the schedule. Oh, and I want to welcome all of my new listeners because I believe I have a lot of new followers ever since I was on Up and Adam with Adam Newell. So thank you to Adam for having me on, and welcome to all of my new people. So the Adams family, welcome to the Bravo bosses. I'm so happy to have you here. And why don't I just explain the schedule and who I am a little bit to all you new people? So I am Dana Regan, the Bravo Investigator on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, all your other social media profiles. I also have a YouTube channel and a Facebook group, so you can subscribe to all of those things. I love to deep dive all things Bravo, but also all things reality TV. So this podcast is my attempt to do all of those things. And here is the schedule that we do. So on Mondays, we have a reality roundup, which is a news episode of basically all of the news that has gone on in the reality TV sphere over the past week. And that's not just Bravo. Like today, we're talking Siesta Key. Sometimes I'm talking Teen Mom, Love is Blind. There's lots of other news topics in the reality TV sphere that we talk about. Then on Tuesdays, I am covering 90 Day Fiancé Before the 90 Days on TLC. Really enjoying that one. Wednesdays is for my Patreon babies. That's patreon.com/The Bravo Investigator Podcast. You get 4 extra podcast episodes a month for just $5. The episodes are also ad-free and early. And you get lots of fun bonus content too. But we're doing Vanderpump Rules from the beginning. It is so much fun. We are just getting to the reunion for season 1, which is crazy, right? It was only 8 episodes. We just finished that up, and then we're doing the reunion this Wednesday. And then on Thursday, I will be covering Summer House because we're having the premiere on Tuesday, and we'll also be talking Southern Charm. And then on Friday, we talk Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and the Valley Persian Style. So those are all recap episodes, and those episodes aren't typically video. I don't do all of my episodes on video. The Monday Reality Roundup episodes are always video, like today. And then any episode where I have a guest, those ones are also video as well. And then the odd other episode will be video when I sort of feel like I'm feeling myself and I feel like being on video, but I don't always feel like being on video. So not all episodes are video. So that is what you can get Monday to Friday here on the Bravo Investigator Podcast. And then I have a limited series that I try to do once a month, but it's been hard to do once a month just because I've been so busy doing a 5-day-a-week show. But I do a limited series, hopefully once a month, called Be True Hollywood Story, where I tell you the tale of your favorite Bravo Lib from birth to scandal to stardom and everything in between. So I just recently did Kyle Cook, and I did that one right before the holidays. So I think it came out on December 26th. So shortly after or shortly before Kyle and Amanda have announced their split, but I give you a full deep dive on everything Kyle Cook, everything you've ever wanted to know. So check that out as well. And that is what you can get here on the Bravo Investigator podcast. But let's get into our topics for today because we have a lot of them. We have a lot of fun ones. So we are starting with the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And Bronwyn just recently did an article with People since the reunion has aired and since she has split with Todd. So I wanted to go over this article with you guys. I was going to read it to you guys because I think it's really interesting and then we can talk about it. So it says, the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City's Bronwyn Newport tells us what's really going on with her separation and cast friendships post-reunion. In a candid conversation, the Bravo star opens up for the first time about her split from husband Todd Bradley, why turning 40 was a wake-up call, where she stands with the rest of the cast, and what's next. There are so many wonderful things coming my way. This was published on January 27th, by the way. So it starts 2 years ago, Bronwyn Newport made an unforgettable entrance into the Bravo universe. It was the first episode of season 5 of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and Newport walked, some may say strut, into a party to meet her new castmates wearing a $15,000 heart-shaped Saint Laurent furry jacket, only one of 3 in existence, she says, over a lipstick print dress. 1 year, countless outrageous ensembles, and quippy one-liners later, viewers still can't get enough of her. From day one, Newport's approach to the show has been as fearless and unapologetic as her fashion. She dove right into the drama and was wide open about her life, including her marriage to her soon-to-be ex-husband, businessman Todd Bradley, who is 26 years her senior. Wow, that is a lot. He does seem much older, doesn't he? He gives off a much older vibe. With her being 40, that would make him like 66. He gives me 76. I'm just saying. I thrive in the crazy, Newport 40 says, as music pumps through her People photo shoot as her colorful Salt Lake City home. I like the house to be loud. These days, Newport's house is bustling with her 20-year-old daughter, Gwen, Gwen's boyfriend, Logan, her mother, Marge, a.k.a. Muzzy. Okay, I didn't actually know what Muzzy stood for. That's funny. And Bradley all living there. Yes, you read that correctly. Despite announcing their separation in December, Newport and Bradley are still cohabitating. See, this is interesting because that's not what she said at the reunion. And this was obviously written post-reunion, so I guess that has changed. She says, we might be the only people in the world who don't have young children who are nesting, she says, but we're doing it for our dogs. They have 5 boxers, Douglas, Zoe, Remy, Petey, and Freddie, all named after House of Cards characters, which was so wild because obviously she got these dogs when that show was popular and before Kevin Spacey was basically canceled. As Newport settles in for her People interview on January 19th, 1 month after the news broke of her split, she's ready to tell all. She doesn't shy away from answering the tough questions, like what was her breaking point and where she stands with Bradley today. I agree to put my life on camera, and that just can't be the things that benefit me or the things that are easy or the things that are happy, she says. Although she admits she's nervous about stepping into this new chapter of her life, she's hopeful about what's next. There are so many wonderful things coming my way. Newport is no stranger to handling adversity. When she was 19, she was kicked out of Brigham Young University for having a child out of wedlock. There was such a stigma behind the way that I had my daughter, says Newport, who raised Gwen without the participation of the father. I didn't realize that she got kicked out of university for this. That's insane that they can even do that, by the way. Anyway, she moved back to San Francisco, where she was largely raised to be near her parents, Muzzy and David, who died in June 2025. She found work as an assistant at a trading desk for a bank, which had ideal East Coast hours so she could care for Gwen at night. One day she went to a work lunch and met Bradley, who was once the CEO of Palm Inc., the maker of Palm Pilot, at the bar. He asked for my email and I was like, oh, well, maybe he's going to mentor me, she says. When he asked her to see a movie, I figured out it was a date pretty quickly. From the beginning, he was so nice. He was so funny. I felt so at home with him, she says. Newport also fell in love with his charisma. I don't see any charisma, but again, we only see such small portions of Todd on the show, and obviously Todd hates the show. One of the most wonderful things I think about Todd, something you don't see on the show, is how charismatic he is, she shares. Todd really adores people and is so helpful. If he knows somebody or he knows something that can help, he's going to do it for you. And I just remember early on thinking he must be an amazing son, a great dad, a wonderful brother, and a fabulous friend. And for me, that's really important how you interact with other people. I agree. I would say the same thing, right? And it's so interesting to hear her say that because those are the things that we haven't really seen on the show, but it is something that she has definitely alluded to and spoken to, how incredibly helpful he has been with her family, financially, and all other things, right? Newport is well aware of the chatter around their age difference. I know everyone thinks I must have daddy issues because I married somebody older, she says. I had a lovely, wonderful dad and a great relationship with him, but Todd was somebody who I bounced a lot of ideas off of and who really cared for me. They married in 2016 and moved to Salt Lake City, where she became involved in nonprofits and leaned into her love of clothes by attending international fashion weeks while being a really hands-on mom, she says. During COVID, she completed her art history degree, which furthered her appreciation for fashion. I didn't know that. As Gwen neared the end of high school, it felt like a moment for me to build my own thing, Newport says. She signed on for The Real Housewives despite her family's concern about reality television. Todd hates the show, she says. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone who's seen it. He thinks that I didn't need to do it or I didn't need to prove to other people who I was or who I am. Newport admits that the show brought out a weird dynamic in her marriage, but makes it clear the cameras didn't create our problems. In fact, filming ended last year. They spent a quiet summer at home together, mourning the loss of her father. He really was there for me and my entire family throughout everything with my dad, she says. Whatever we've been struggling with while filming this season seemed to just not exist in the summer. We just really understood each other and were great. But watching the episodes as they aired and witnessing her obvious tension with Bradley throughout them, it did play into her separation decision. It was almost like this magical summer hadn't happened. We were kind of right back into some of those problems. She calls watching it all back really eye-opening, adding, I didn't like how needy I was, and I didn't like how upset or defensive I was. It wasn't a relationship that I felt like I wanted to be going forward with anyone. Another factor in her decision was turning 40 last September. So it's interesting. She's almost like having her own midlife crisis and trying to realize, like, what do I want at this point in my life? It was my first birthday since my dad had passed, and I was thinking about this conversation he and I had 15 years ago, she says of David, who had Alzheimer's disease and died after a sudden fall. He and I had a very specific conversation, and I woke up on my birthday and just felt like the only other person who had been in that conversation that is so meaningful to me, that had guided me through so many things, was gone, she said. And if I wanted anything out of that conversation, I was going to have to do it for myself. Newport says that realization motivated her to talk to Bradley about separating. We went through it quietly, she says, about slowly unwinding their lives. One thing that solidified her decision was attending BravoCon without Bradley in November. It was maybe the first time that I felt like he wasn't in my life. It was that if he wasn't in my life, it was going to be okay. It was just this pressure point of trying to explain this life that I was living to him when he was not there and he wasn't understanding it, she says. After the convention, she felt okay and happy and fine and like there were things for me in the future. I mean, that's really interesting because she has talked a lot about how she's never really been alone because she was either living with her parents or with Todd or with Gwen, right? And so to go to BravoCon by herself, I guess, made her realize she had that level of independence. But I totally also understand what she's saying about Todd, like not really getting it, because if he's not attending the things or he's not caring about the show, then there's this whole aspect of her life that she can't really communicate with him about, which isn't ideal in a relationship. She knew she wanted to rip the Band-Aid off and reveal the news while taping the season 6 reunion. The reunion was the next time I was going to see the women, she says. I felt like since they had lived through some of the breakdown of what was going on, they had maybe lived through a version of me that was more upset or more defensive or harder to get along with than they deserve, and that they deserve that information. Plus, she wanted people to leave Bradley alone. Leave Todd alone. I'm kidding. He doesn't want to be talked about, she says. Life post-split hasn't been easy. It is very scary to feel like I don't have my dad or Todd as a sounding board anymore, Newport says. But it's also a really wonderful, positive thing for me to do, what's best for myself going forward. It's tricky to talk about. I'm not happy. This is not what I wanted. It's not what I had hoped for us. But from where we are, I can see wonderful things for both of us. I really cared about Todd, she adds. That's not something that turns off overnight. I want the very best for him. I really do want to be best friends with Todd. I think as we've gotten closer to that in the last few weeks, there's a lot more of that old happiness and joy for both of us. I mean, for this part, I think a lot of couples ideally want to try to be best friends as they come out of something because they've gone through so much together and they still want to be in each other's lives. But we all know how that goes, right? This is not going to last. They're not going to be best friends. As soon as he moves on, she's going to get really upset. It's just not going to work. It's not going to happen. Even Kyle and Amanda, like right now they're friends, but like honestly, how long is that going to last? One day she even hopes she can go on a double date with him and his next love interest. That's ridiculous, Bronwyn. You say ridiculous things. The problem with Bronwyn is she's such an interesting and complex character, but at the same time, she still says things that are clearly not true. And you know, I mean, we saw those two scenes of her, one with Todd and one with Whitney, where she's talking about being open to an open relationship, which she later admits she wasn't actually open to, right? So I feel like she says these things, but let's be realistic. You are never going to go on a double date with Todd and his new partner. She says, I would love to go out with Todd and somebody new for him in the future. I would terrorize whoever he dates, and it would just be so funny for me. It's amazing. I'd have all kinds of opinions on it. She's just being silly. As for her dating life, if you're wondering if Newport has seen fan edits on social media shipping her and co-star Whitney Rose, yes, she has, and no, you will not see any of them together. Of course, I've seen that. I get tagged on TikToks every single day in these Whitney and I compilations, she says. Whitney and I are not going on any dates. She and I talked the other night about getting dinner, and I actually thought if we post an Instagram story, I'm going to have to caption it, we did not kiss. All jokes aside, she calls Whitney a great friend and a great sounding board. She's quick to add, I really enjoy hanging out with her, but those edits are going to stay on TikTok, not in my real life. One cast member that Newport says she has been the most supportive of since the news of her split has come out has been Mary M. Cosby. Mary has texted me every few days, Newport says, adding that Cosby called her on each holiday since the split too. Mary has shared things with me about things that she's going through in her life or in different relationships she's been in, and tried to really encourage me to figure out what's best for me. It's so interesting that Mary has really just become like the beacon of like light and reason. And it's just so crazy to go from one to the other. She went from like sort of being so hated to being the literal Mother Teresa. Another surprise, Mary also sends me really funny TikToks, Newport reveals. I don't know if everybody is familiar with Mary Cosby's TikTok game, but she finds all the best TikToks and some shady ones. Mary sent me some shady TikToks about the girls sometimes. While she said she's in a good place with Heather, Meredith, Angie, and even Brittany, whom she calls my much older kid sister, the same cannot be said for Lisa Barlow. I'm in a great place with Lisa in that I'm in no place with Lisa, Newport says. I guess we approached the show very differently. We approached our relationship very differently. I thought we were close. I realized we were not in her eyes, and I also realized since that maybe I don't want to be close. She continues, as I learn more about who she wants to be seen as, it's probably not someone I want to be super close with. And that sounds like I mean that with heavy disrespect. So lovingly, I just don't think we mix well. You know, at least she's being honest and real. And like, it's at least the fact that she has that introspection means that we're not going to see her continue to try to create a friendship with Lisa that's never going to work. And yeah, I respect that. Off camera, Newport is focused these days on expanding her love of fashion through her Substack newsletter, working with nonprofits such as the Road Game and local LGBTQIA charities, including Encircle, Utah Pride Center, and Equality Utah, and being more hands-on with a more recent passion, producing Broadway shows. She hopes to be a part of costuming of the shows down the line, which is a wheelhouse she knows very well. That's interesting. To see her as a fashion designer for Broadway shows. I mean, I didn't even know that was a job, but what an interesting like intersection of like the media space and fashion. It sort of does combine all of her loves and her passion. So that would be a really cool like avenue for her. There's like a whole show of the things that I put on to go film our show, she says, on her on-theme outfits for every on-screen occasion. There's a rabbit hole. There always is with me and my outfits. Case in point, she's worn an inflatable Moschino number on board a yacht, a hot dog dress for a drag show, and carried a pigeon-shaped clutch to go pigeon shooting, among other themed looks. I always think when I'm getting dressed, I should Instagram this and just save it. And then sometimes it's chaotic and I'm stressed about whether or not I'm going to fight with the women, and I don't do the whole thing, she says, about sharing more about the planning process. Those women could throw a drink at me next season. They could stab me, but I'm in my outfit. My purse works. The accessories are right on brand with whoever I'm fighting with. While a lot has changed since she joined the show, she hopes to continue on Housewives. It has brought me such joy and friendship, she adds, that it has also helped her soften her tense relationship with Muzzy. It's interesting because I do think that she really loves being on the show. I think that's really obvious. And I think that she would give up a lot, including Todd, which she should give up Todd, to be on it. It's interesting, though, that she says it brings her a lot of joy and friendships. I guess the joy is probably like the attention that she's getting. And I don't mean in a bad way. It's just probably giving her the space to be in the front and center in her life, which she maybe wasn't used to for quite some time. But the friendships, who are you friends with? I guess Whitney, right? It's just so hard to truly believe that any of these women are friends because we know that deep down they all like really hate each other. But I'm glad that it has helped with her relationship with Muzzy, because in the reunion, she says that she believes that Muzzy sort of blames her for the way that the audience is perceiving her. It's brought me a lot of introspection about who I am as a person, what I want in my life, who I want to be in other people's lives. I always joke like there's no notability in reality TV. I know it's not like highbrow, but there is a lot of richness about life, who we are, how we show up, what we look for, what we want, she shares. We all fundamentally want the same thing, but we go about getting it in different ways. We go about accepting it in different ways, how we handle it when we don't get what we want. It's fascinating. As she enters a new year, she's ready to step into this new phase in life. I wake up and I feel different than I have in the past, she says. I get to show up in each of these experiences not feeling encumbered by some of the stress and the heaviness that I've been carrying. She's quick to joke, but now I can't use the excuse I'm going through something when I mean to the women on the show. So I think that was a really interesting article. I will continue to say that I think that Bronwyn is a very real and complex character, but I still feel like there's so much that we don't really know about her. I mean, if you even just look about her cheating allegations that she had against Todd initially, right? She said things about him last year that he cheated on her and that Gwen had caught him texting someone and she had seen it over his shoulder or something like that. But then she explained it away at the reunion like he wasn't really cheating. So I think there is still a lot more to get to know about Bronwyn, but I'm not sure if we're always getting the full truth. That being said, I think her fashion game is fascinating. I'm very curious to get to learn more about her as the show progresses. I want to continue to see her on the show because she is so fascinating. I'm going to miss her and Todd together on the show, though. I know that sounds crazy, only because we literally watched their relationship deteriorate basically from the time that she came on the show. And so I kind of want to watch more of that, if I'm being honest. I don't really care to watch Bronwyn date and live a single girl life. I was really interested in the contentious relationship that she was having with Todd and how that was sort of affecting her own psyche to the point where she was convincing herself that she wanted things that she didn't really want, like an open relationship. I know that sounds bad. That makes it sound like I want bad things for my own entertainment, but all I'm saying is I thought that was really, really interesting and real and raw to be able to watch this season and also to be able to watch her get defensive and go in and out of it. Yes, I'm going to be open about Todd, and then she shuts down about Todd. So I think we're going to see a very different Bronwyn next season because the Bronwyn that we've seen has been a person who is maybe not the real her. Maybe it's only been the Bronwyn that has been going through a tumultuous time in her relationship. And we've been seeing that with her from the jump. So yeah, I think we're going to see a whole new Bronwyn next season without Todd, without, even having Muzzy in her house, without having her father there, right? There's going to be a lot of big changes in her life. And I wonder what that means for how she interacts with the women, but I'm here for it. I'm jazzed. All right, let's move on to the Traitors. So we're just going to do a little bit of an episode 7 recap. So Alan is having a big, beautiful banquet, and this is the banquet where he's getting everyone to get dressed up. So we saw all the previews of that where Colton was wearing a pearled chest plate. Everybody looks amazing except Colton, obviously. And Lisa says that she has committed a murder in plain sight. So at this point in time, we are not aware of who it is. Alan tells them that the Traitors have cursed one of them to death. And he says, we don't know which one of you is cursed. So he has these people in gold masks bring out these 2 antidotes. And he says that basically you have to battle it out. Whoever wants these antidotes will be fine and they won't die. So Natalie, for some reason, comes at it so hard. And everybody is so shocked by this. Tara Lipinski wants one. But Natalie is no, I don't feel safe. No, I don't feel safe. I want it. I want it. And she's literally grabbing it from Tara. She's acting so a fool. People are so taken aback by this because why would you feel like you're not safe? Honestly, I forgot you were here, right? There's so many people on this show that we kind of forget are even here because they haven't really spoken much, like Steven and Mark. Natalie was one of them. So it really put a target on her back because people were why do you want this so hard? So Kristen drinks one as well. So it ends up being Kristen and Natalie. But then Jam Jam ends up getting taken away because he's the one that apparently was killed in plain sight. So he starts screaming as if he actually is being murdered, right? Because it looks like he's being taken away to be beheaded. So he starts screaming things like, Lisa's a traitor. She kissed me on the cheek this morning at breakfast. It's Lisa. So it was Jam Jam that Lisa killed in plain sight. But there is this weird confusion about this kissing. So I guess I had to watch this a few times because I'm what is everybody talking about? So I guess in the morning when everybody's kissing hello, Lisa's air kissing everybody, but Jam Jam is claiming that she kissed him for real on the cheek. And then I guess he determined that meant that was the murder, the kiss of death, basically. So in the turret, Candiace and Lisa are urging Rob to work together with them because remember, he voted for Lisa last week, which interesting move, right? He's never really been suspected as a traitor. But at one point in time, obviously, you're going to have to fend for yourselves. But I feel like that wasn't a good move on his part, in my opinion, just because you are still working with two other traitors. There will come a time when you turn on them. I just feel like it's a little too early for that. But they're not mad at him yet. They're not mad at him. They're like, Rob, we need you to work together with us, okay? Like, this is what makes the most sense. So everybody becomes like really suspicious of Natalie for obvious reasons, because she's like, it just made it seem like she was a traitor, because if she was able to down the antidote and she was a traitor, then she was able to take one of the antidotes away from the faithfuls, right? Or sorry, yes. So everybody is now really concerned that it's her. Some people, though, are still on the Lisa train because of Colton, and Candiace is trying to sway them off of Lisa towards Natalie because, one, she's a good-ass friend, two, she's a good-ass traitor, and three, she's a housewife, and as Colton says, housewives have to stick with housewives. He's such an idiot. So then Natalie sticks her foot in her mouth again because she ends up accidentally saying, we murdered someone last night. She said, like, we, as in, like, I. So everybody was like, okay, it's totally her. So then they do a challenge, and you guys know that I cannot recap the challenges because I just find them so confusing and weird. But the prize of it is getting a dagger, which gives you 2 votes at the next round table. So Rob wins, and then he gets to decide who has the dagger. And he plays this game with the people on his team. So basically, it's like Natalie, Steven, Mark, Eric. There's a few people who had to go to this challenge. And Rob is doing this really, it just shows how smart he is. He plays this game with them where he asks them a few questions, and he asks them questions where he knows the answer is the truth. He asks them a question where he knows the answer is a lie. And that way he's able to determine their baseline, which is what we call it in investigations, actually. It's trying to figure out, what somebody's baseline is, how they normally are. And if they're deviating from the normal, then you can tell if they're lying or not. So Rob is able to sniff it on Natalie, and he ends up making a pact with that team that, I have got the dagger. We're not going to tell them that I have the dagger. I think that that's what would be best. Let's make this like alliance. Let's make this pact. So he's playing the game really interesting here. He's making a pact and an alliance with people who are not his traitors, right? They are not his technical team. And, he's sort of creating that vibe that Colton had initially wanted, which was to be like the ringleader and to have everyone listen. But I think everyone is starting to turn towards Rob because he is so intelligent about this. But then at the round table, Rob pushes for Lisa. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? Right? Because if you can't get her out right now, like if that's not about to happen, you can't vote for her twice. She'll fucking kill you, right? You're going to have no relationship. But then Lisa ends up being voted out. Now, another interesting point is that Candiace says that she decides she's not sure if it's Natalie. She doesn't want to vote for Lisa. So she votes for Rob as a throwaway vote. But he does not like that. He is now like pissed off at Candiace. He doesn't think that they can work together anymore. And that's basically how it ends. But I don't see how that's any different, quite frankly, than him voting for Lisa. So there ends up being like this online beef over the weekend where this girl had posted this TikTok basically talking about how Rob was on Love Island and how he's always manipulating women and he's always, he's not the person that we think he is. He sort of won that game by sort of fucking around with a bunch of different women. And then Rob responded to this TikTok and wrote, "This is actually ridiculous." And then Candiace responded to that, "Is it?" And then Rob said, "It's a game, Candiace." And then Candiace said, "Grow up, Robbie Bobby. Gaslighting ages you." So it seems like there might be some current beef. But in addition to that, Chris Bassett, Candiace's husband, posted a tweet that said, "Everyone's saying that Candiace acted out of emotion and made a dumb move. Rob was the first one to act on emotion when he just couldn't find it in himself to vote for Colton or Rob and turned first. But we are praising him for how smart he is playing. Sure, Jan." I don't know what he's talking about. I don't think that either of them acted on emotion, to be honest. Considering that Rob voted for Lisa, how is it any different than Candiace voting for Rob? It's the same thing. Traitor on traitor on traitor on traitor. So if they were both fucking with each other, they're both fucking with each other. But I don't see it as one played the game better than the other. In fact, I think they both shouldn't have voted for other traitors. I think that was the ineffective gameplay, but who really knows? A lot of people are speculating that maybe Rob like won this on his own and Candiace is pissed off. I'm really curious like what the current beef is, or it could literally just be like they're just playing into the online fodder because they know like how obsessed we are about like talking shit about this show online. So it could literally be nothing, but it's interesting to hear that like Candiace and Rob at this point in the game are like kind of are like basically not going to be able to talk anymore, not going to be able to work together anymore. And then this comes out online, right? So I wonder if it's just basically like mayhem between them for the rest of the season. And I'm really curious to see. Okay, let's move on to Love is Blind. So we know that season 10 is airing on February the 10th. It is the Ohio season. And usually when this show comes out, there starts to be a lot of internet fodder and gossip about the cast members, right? People will be like, hey, I know that person. Hey, they did this to me. And then we end up getting a lot of hot goss. So we did get some goss, but it's really, really upsetting. And so I am going to issue a trigger warning for this portion of the episode, as we are going to be talking about SA. So if that's upsetting to you, I've actually put in timestamps so that you can move on to the next topic. So there is a guy on this show called Steven. He is 32 and in finance. Now, there is somebody with the Instagram handle Gold Dust Mystic who posted a few things on Instagram about him. So his picture was posted, obviously, by Kinetic Content and by Netflix. And so she took the picture of him that was posted and responded to it saying, my heart is literally racing and I'm shaking because this man came to my house and essayed me a few months ago. Awesome. Then she posted another story that said, sorry for the trauma dump, but I did not expect to see this man on fucking Love is Blind, and I need people to know that he is dangerous. I feel sick. Then she posted another story that said, happened in May 2025. I realized that they probably won't even take me seriously because I didn't file a police report, and people are just going to think I'm lying for attention, which I don't even want. I just wanted at least to share that he's a disgusting human being who can't take no for an answer and likes to film people without their consent. I just don't want anyone else to go through what I did. I cried on the phone to my best friend the day after it happened, and I processed what happened. If anyone has any questions or wants to share their experience, it will remain between us, of course. Please reach out to me. And thank you to everyone who has been supportive. Then she also posted a screenshot of herself from May 16th, 2025. And she said, here's me posting about it too on my private Instagram account. So this is what she had written back in May 16, 2025. Took me 20 hours to realize I was SA'd last night. I hate knowing this happened in my own home too, because I have to cleanse it. When men don't listen to me or what I want, it makes me feel so defeated. And in the moment, I felt so weak and like, the fuck am I supposed to do? So I kept letting it happen because I don't know how they'll react. I shouldn't have to say that I don't want something more than once. I shouldn't have to be coerced. He also started recording me without my direct consent, and I wanted to puke. I feel degraded and sad today. And then she posted something else from May 16th, 2025, where she posted a picture of, or like a screenshot of his Instagram and wrote, more proof that I didn't make it up just because he's on TV, whatever, if that helps, LOL. This is him, by the way. I am even more certain that he's a POS now, considering the fact that he unfollowed me immediately afterwards. And so it's like a screenshot of his Instagram post. So Storytime with Ricky reached out to this person as well as some other people who had made claims on either Instagram or TikTok. There's basically 3 women in total who have come forward. There's this woman, there's another woman, and a third woman. The third woman is not interested in saying anything further, according to Storytime with Ricky, because she has reached out to all of them. The third woman is not interested in saying anything further than what she said online, which was just one quick line saying basically like, me too. But there are 2 women, including this one, who actually spoke with Ricky and gave like full accounts of what happened. So you can go definitely listen to that on Storytime with Ricky's account if you want like the full breakdown of her, basically her interview with this woman. The main issue with this is that these incidents all apparently happened after filming. So remember how long ago Love is Blind films, right? It's usually like a year and a half or 2 years after that we actually get it aired. So because all of these incidents happened after filming, the show isn't really culpable for it. But I wonder what this means, right? Because they're not culpable, but at the same time, I'm sure they are now aware. I wonder if there's even a possibility of him being cut from the show. It's my understanding that he does go kind of far, not necessarily far, far. I mean, I don't know all of the details, but like far enough that he is like on the show. So usually this is the kind of show where it would be pretty easy to cut someone out if need be. And I think that they should, given these allegations and given that like 3 different women have come forward, 2 were willing to be interviewed, which almost never happens, and which I feel like is amazing, first of all. And I really, really commend these people for being willing to speak about this online, because it is such a scary thing. It totally is. So many people end up being called liars or, clout chasers or this or that. But typically, and I will say this as somebody who was a sexual abuse investigator for many, many years, typically people do not lie about this kind of thing. Okay. Statistically, they just don't. She also provided a significant amount of evidence that, again, you can go and check that out with Storytime with Ricky, because she did a really long post about it, a really long video. It's like 5 minutes. So I'm not going to play it for you guys. You can go check it out over there if you do want all of the details. But I believe this person wholeheartedly, even if there wasn't this level of information, because again, people just typically, statistically, don't lie about this kind of thing. And I think this is absolutely disgusting, but I am so, so proud of these women for feeling compelled to come forward and feeling strong enough to come forward, because again, so many people don't, right? So this is going to be able to help so many other people. I really do hope that the show takes this seriously, at least by trying to cut him out if possible, or at least not having him in the reunion, or if he is at the reunion, have him speak directly to it. I mean, who really knows? But this kind of shit continues to happen. Again, like the show couldn't have done anything about it at the time. If he had no record, he had no criminal record at the time, what could they have done? All of these things happened after the fact. And even after the fact, these women hadn't gone to the police. So it wouldn't really have been something that the Love is Blind producers would have been able to find regardless. But now that we know, let's cancel him, right? I'm here for that. All right, let's move on to our next topic, which is the Real Housewives of New York. So we have gotten word that the original RHONY cast is going to a rival network from Bravo. So like the OGs, all right? So far, we are hearing who has signed on is Jill Zarin, Kelly Bensimon, Ramona Singer, Luanda Lesseps, and Sonia Morgan, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? And it's supposed to be with E. So that's really exciting. This should have happened a long time ago, quite frankly. The reboot was a flop, okay? I understand why at the time they felt it was something that they wanted to try, but it was a flop. I couldn't care less if I ever see the new class of RHONY ever again. I don't really care about Aaron or Sai or Bryn or Uber, any of these people, right? Even though Bryn quit or whatever. But I'm just not that fascinated by this cast. I want to see our OGs, and it really sucks that never really happened. And we were never able to get the girls back together, basically, right? So to have Luann, Sonia, Jill, Kelly, and Ramona signing a deal with E, which I don't really think is like a rival network. My understanding is that it's all kind of within the same umbrella anyways, and that it's not really biting Bravo's hand or anything like that. Honestly, I think Bravo would probably be supportive if something like this was going on, because we all know that we need to get this core cast back together. There is nothing more fun or funny about these women. And I really wish we had Dorinda, though, as well, because I think Dorinda would be really good in this mix. Of course, Bethany has already spoken about it and has already been like, good, they should leave and they should go to E or whatever. But who cares what Bethany thinks? I just think it's really time, like I said, to get the girls back together. I feel like there's nothing wrong with trying new things, right? But there's also nothing wrong with realizing that you had such a core group of women who work so well together or so hilarious together, and knowing that it's sort of like that magic in a bottle that we talk about with Vanderpump Rules and how it can't be recreated. This OG New York group can't be recreated. And I really would be excited about seeing a long-standing Housewives show with them. I just would. No more girls' trips, no more this or that. I want to see OG New York, scrap the new New York. This is what I want to see. So I'm really excited. I don't care what network it's on. It doesn't really affect me personally. I'll just change the channel to E, right? Okay, let's move on to Vanderpump Rules. So as we know, the new show sucks, right? Really sucks. Not a fan. Anyway, Chris and Jason, I think they were both on this podcast. So it's this podcast with E.L. Booker, who used to be on Love Island, who used to date Delilah Bell, who is Lisa Rinna's daughter. So he did have a couple moments on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, but he has this podcast called Hot Goss. And it's in a sauna. He makes you like get in like a robe or like a towel and be interviewed. So he's got the eyebrow twins there, and they're asking him about like the old Vanderpump Rules. And Chris is like, who's Katie Maloney, right? Like, who are these people? And Sheena ends up responding to a clip of this on Threads, and she's like, give me a break. I don't know who Katie is. These boys need to show some respect to an OG who paved the way for them. What a joke. And then Katie also clapped back on her own podcast saying, like, you know, undisrespectfully, she's like, you know, I'm not a person who's like, you know, put some respect on my name type of person. But like, I'm sorry, your show sucks. You guys are like doing incest together. The show isn't really that interesting. And like, how can you say that you don't know who like the OG cast is when like Vanderpump Rules was such a iconic, like the OG cast was so incredibly iconic in its own right, in its own space. And for you to not have like, I don't know, done any research into like what you're up against and how it's going to differ, like, didn't you say that you came into this sphere because you wanted to be an actor and you wanted to be in this space? Well, you can't just like fall into it. If this is what you want to do a little bit of research, right? Do some homework. Yeah, maybe being a model and an actor doesn't require as much work as some other jobs, but I don't see there being anything wrong with actually like doing some work and like putting some work into it. If I was cast on a show called Vanderpump Rules, I would go and watch all 10 seasons if I hadn't seen it before so that I'd understand what I'm getting into. And like, ridiculous. Then Jasmine Good from the Valley also made a really interesting point on Instagram. She said, the lies, LOL. I'm actually cracking up because when I was working at SUR, because remember, Jasmine actually did work at SUR, they were trying to bring in new people for season 10. And this dude, Chris, was literally one of the people they had come in to work with us. That was in 2022. So now he's on the reboot acting like he doesn't know who Katie is. Yeah, okay. Doesn't add up. Anyways, that's my 2 cents nobody asked for. So I actually love that because then it just shows that he's just like being a fucking liar and he's trying to act like he's too good for knowing who the OG cast is, right? I mean, he has since sort of not really apologized, but like kind of like put his tail between his legs and posted this video of him like watching Vanderpump Rules or watching himself watching the podcast episode where he says he doesn't know who Katie is. A lot of people think Sheena's comments are like kind of stupid and it's her way of trying to enter back into the zeitgeist and have an opinion, especially because Katie obviously doesn't like Sheena and would probably tell Sheena, choke, I don't care. But I do appreciate all of the OGs kind of coming for this a little bit because you guys are so lucky to have been cast on this show, first of all. It's going to get a second season just because it is Vanderpump Rules, even though nobody is watching. So you're very lucky in that regard. You're very lucky that you're on a third reality show. You're very lucky that you have an incest storyline where you and your cousin are rubbing each other down with oil in the shower naked and that you get to be on TV, okay? So yes, put a little bit more respect on their name. And if you want to be serious in this industry, do your research. Figure out who they are, learn who they are. Not because you need to necessarily respect them, but because I think there is something to be said for learning about what this show is, why it's iconic, why it was lightning in a bottle, and what you can maybe do differently to improve, in my opinion. Okay? So let's move on to the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And this is just like our weekly update on Denise and Aaron, because there is always a weekly update on Denise and Aaron's divorce. So this is Denise Richards and Aaron Vipers. As we know, he has been like trying to like scam anyone that'll listen for money. His grandmother started like a GoFundMe for him. He tried to have like TMZ come into the house and show how like dirty and disgusting it was and how Denise was leaving it that way when it was only him and his parents who have been living there for years. Then he was being evicted. I mean, like all this stuff has been going on. But like the latest drama is that according to new legal documents obtained by TMZ, Denise is asking a judge to deny Aaron's request for half of the estimated $200,000 to $300,000 that she is said to make each month off of OnlyFans. Denise argues that his request should be denied because he failed to file an updated income and expense declaration with the court. So I just hate him in general, so I don't think he should be having any of her money. My question though is, if he is so hard up for cash, why isn't he doing OnlyFans? Denise has told us what a big dick he has, right? Like if you were this desperate for money, you get on the OnlyFans. And I just hate when people, men or women, take other people's money when they are fully capable of working, right? I'm not talking about a stay-at-home mom who has children who would need, what do you call it, spousal support. I'm talking about someone who doesn't and who is fully capable of working. It's sort of like the Rachel Lindsay and Brian Abasolo situation, which literally pisses me off because he was a fucking chiropractor. Yes, he moved around a couple of times with Rachel, but he was the one who wanted to move to LA. He claimed that, because she was an influencer and wanted to kind of move around and do all these things, he wasn't able to set up a chiropractic practice. So he's not able to make any money and therefore requested spousal support from her. Now, while yes, because they did not have a prenup, according to the law, he can ask that. The fact that he is asking that is a little bitch move because, sir, set up a chiropractic practice now. You've been in LA for a long time. 1, 2, do something online then. Do brand deals, do something, but you're not doing anything. You can't even if you're given a following, you need to sort of work at it, which is what Rachel Lindsay ended up saying on her podcast. And it's something that she's going to bring up in her book that, you can't just sort of expect these opportunities to just kind of fall in your lap. You need to work for them. Sort of like I was saying with Chris from Vanderpump Rules, right? Like do your research and do the work so that you could be the best that you are at your craft, right? So Brian could have created like an online chiropractic sort of like persona. He could have done something on Instagram with that. There's so many other things that he can do. And he is a fully capable man of working. That's what I say about Aaron. Go get a job. Go get a job. But he's doing everything in his power to avoid that. He's trying to go to the masses for a GoFundMe. Now he's trying to come for Denise's money. You didn't do anything to earn that money, in my opinion. Not in my opinion. He didn't do anything to earn the money. And that's what pisses me off. You shouldn't be taking money from someone when you did nothing to earn it and you are fully capable of making your own. Go make your own money, Aaron. If this is what the court is saying in terms of what's required, like she may be required to pay him for this, and that would really fucking suck. But her lawyers are saying that there has to be an updated income and expense report. If that's what's required as part of the process, then good. Keep saying stuff like that, drag it out, do whatever it is that you have to do, because yeah, he doesn't deserve the money. He is such a piece of shit. Okay, let's move on to our last topic, which is Siesta Key. Now, this is an old show. I don't know if you guys even remember it. It was on MTV. The person that you probably know best from Siesta Key is Juliet Porter. She was recently on the show Perfect Match, and so that kind of brought her back into the reality TV sphere. But I will get to my point in a second, but I will explain, I guess, the concept of Siesta Key. So this was an MTV show. It was basically just like The Hills, produced by Adam DeVello, but it was in Siesta Key, Florida. So it was about a group of friends who were all kind of rich, Nepo babies, dating each other and stuff. And so the main characters were Juliet Porter and Alex Campo. Alex Campo was sort of like the hottest guy. He's not attractive to me whatsoever, so I didn't really understand it, but he was basically getting with every girl in the town. That was like his MO. But he was also really, really smart. His dad is a lawyer, and he ended up going to law school and graduating. And I think he has 2 siblings with mental disabilities that he really cares for. So in one respect, he sort of seems to have a heart and can be really smart. But when it comes to women, he is an absolute disaster and cheats on all of them. His father was also one of the executive producers of the show. Then around 2020, during Black Lives Matter, all of these comments or tweets that Alex had made that were anti-LGBTQ plus came out, and he was basically effectively canceled, which was interesting again because his father was the executive producer of the show. But he didn't really seem to care. Alex Campos seemed to sort of be the only person I've ever seen in the reality TV zeitgeist who just said like, okay, I don't want to be on TV anymore then, I'll leave. Great, right? We don't want your racist ass on TV, but it was just very interesting. And then the last season that he was supposed to be in, which was already filmed prior to him being canceled, they did have to sort of try to cut him out of it, which was so bizarre because he was a very integral storyline. So right before he left, he had been dating someone named Alyssa Salerno, and he had cheated on her multiple times with Juliet Porter. He had a long relationship with Juliet, but it was very on and off. They eventually were off. He starts dating Alyssa, who he also had a relationship with on and off for, I guess, years prior as well. And she had always been like a best friend of the family. So she ends up dating him. And Juliet, in the final season that Alex is in it, she ends up telling Alyssa over the phone that he has cheated on you several times with me. That was her line, okay? Alyssa continues to date him and continues in the Campo family, and then they end up getting pregnant right around that time as well. So the time that he's getting canceled, he's like, that's fine, I'm leaving the show, I'm going to be with Alyssa, going to continue with law school, and we're going to have this baby. So they have this kid, and we haven't seen him really since then because he's not on TV anymore. Juliet continued for a few more seasons. Then we didn't see her on TV for a while. Then we saw her back with Perfect Match. But yeah, Alex and Alyssa were just like doing their own thing in Siesta Key, living their lives. Now, they did end up getting engaged, and they were supposed to get married on November 22nd of 2025. Now, no pictures ever came out. It didn't look like that ever happened. And if you go look at both of their Instagrams, there are no current pictures of them together. So it's like, hey, what really happened here? And then somebody found that Alyssa has actually recently filed for paternity papers with regards to Alex. So she has filed a petition to determine paternity, visitation, and other relief. She has filed a family summons. So to me, and this was all January 27th of this year that these things were filed. So it looks like, therefore, they are probably not together anymore. He probably cheated because that is what Alex Campo was wont to do. I mean, we don't know at this point in time. I don't know if we ever will because they're not on TV anymore. And I don't know if we'll ever find out. But it's interesting that, yeah, now she's filing all of these custody related papers against Alex. And to me, that must mean they are no longer together and she doesn't want him anywhere near her kid. So super interesting. I would love to know how this played out. And what's also interesting is they have been together for many, many years now. That being said, like I said, they haven't been on TV. So to me, just watching them on Instagram, it's like, oh, I guess he's not cheating on her and he has found his one true love and they are happy. But, Instagram is a lie. Pictures are a lie and we don't really know what's going on in the back end. And because they're not on TV, we're not watching him cheat, I guess. But it's very possible that he's been cheating on her this whole time. Maybe she's finally had enough. Maybe so many people have come forward to her that she couldn't deny it anymore. I don't really know, but I'd really like to, right? This is pretty interesting. But Alex Campo is a Trumper, he is a cheater, he is racist, he made just so many offensive comments during the COVID period of time, and to never apologize either was really fucked up as well. It's one thing to say like, yeah, that's fine, I don't want to come back to reality TV, but you could have apologized anyways, which to me just means that he believed all of the horrifying things that he was saying online, and that's just not something you ever see. I mean, typically, even if the people who have made terrible comments believe what they said, they still apologize. Maybe it's because they want to be able to keep their jobs on TV, or maybe it's because they just, they want to be able to clear their names because they don't want to be Googled with the name with the word racist coming up next to it. But Alex Campo never once apologized for any of the horrible racist things that he said online. So I think that really says something, right? So I don't know if we'll ever find out what happened with Alex and Alyssa, but if we do, I will let you know. All right, you guys, that is the end of the episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, what else? Facebook, all of those things at The Bravo Investigator. And then there is the Patreon as well. Like I mentioned, it's patreon.com/The Bravo Investigator podcast. And I love you, BBs. I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator podcast. For more content, head over to patreon.com/The Bravo Investigator podcast. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at The Bravo Investigator. If you enjoyed the show, leave a 5-star review. Love you, BBs. See you next time.